welcome to this video. We have a special guest. This is Kat Zimmerman, and she is a multi-Mustang champion, so many Mustang titles. Why don't you tell us just a smidge about yourself, Kat?
I've been training Mustangs for about 4.5 years. It's kind of my main focus. I do a lot of wild Mustang gentling and training for the Mustang Makeovers. And I do a lot of liberty work and trick training, and I just perform with my Mustangs. So this is my first Thoroughbred, so it's a little different than what I'm used to.
Yeah, so what's it like having a Thoroughbred compared to the Mustangs?
It's a lot different. I mean, I'm used to getting a horse that's completely wild and has no training, and I have to do everything myself. And now I have a horse that, you know, he's been around people, he's comfortable with people, he just knows how to go fast, but he has all that training technically. It's just retraining that. So it's definitely a big change just from having a wild horse. And it's just, I feel, like you said, I feel a little spoiled with it because it's just like I have a longer time frame and a horse that's just not wild and crazy, and it's been kind of nice. It's been a learning experience.
And there's still lots of time to go.
Yeah.
So Kat and I, we actually reached out to each other. So Kat does a lot of really cool stuff. If you haven't seen her YouTube channel, check it out. You want to tell everybody what it is?
It's just CZ Mustangs.
All right. So CZ, so for Kat Zimmerman, so C and then Z Zimmerman, or CZ Mustangs. And so she wanted some help with some different lay down techniques, and I thought it'd be cool to get her thoughts on teaching my horses to sit, because as you guys know, I've been working on that with Fairly. So she already gave me a little tidbit for that I'm going to try another day with Fairly and work on it a little bit more. So when it comes to teaching a horse to lay down, one of the biggest things is, like, a lot of people want to teach their horse to lay down. It's kind of a cool, fun trick. And the reason why I don't really post in detail how to do it step by step is because a lot of times people aren't going to actually follow the pre-steps to get your horse ready to lay down first. And you can actually, like, hurt your horse or hurt the relationship with your horse if you go about it in the wrong way. So it's not something that I like to kind of just promote for thinking people that can just, like, go out and go do it. It's not really how it goes. I know he's handsome, but you can't go say hello to him. So for example, like, if your horse isn't in a calm thinking frame of mind, then teaching your horse to lay down is not going to work. Or let's say you can't even get your horse to lower their head, then teaching lay down is not going to work. If your horse is scared or nervous at all when you go to get on them at the mounting block, teaching lay down is not going to work, because you're going to end up over top of your horse. And so if they're nervous of you at the mounting block or they're anxious with you in the saddle, then chances are lay down not going to work. If you attempt to cheat and use ropes or things like that to try to force your horse to lay down, you can really hurt your horse. You can really potentially injure their legs or things like that. It's not necessarily a smart thing to do. So the way I teach my horses to lay down, I don't tie up their legs or anything like that. I've try to stay away from that kind of stuff because I don't want to worry the horse. When they get scared, they can go really, really stupid, and so you have to be smart about it. You have to be careful not to lay your horse down next to a fence or anything that they can get caught up in, or that they're going to struggle, thinking about if your horse rolls, if they're going to flip over and get caught into anything. You have to think about that. And if you've scolded your horse for laying down in the past, meaning, like, let's say you were standing with your horse and they thought, oh, it's a nice hot day, I'm feeling a little sweaty, I want to lay down. If you've really punished your horse for that, then you're going to have a hard time teaching your horse to lay down, because you've gotten them in trouble for that action. So one of the most common things that I always get asked is, and you probably get asked this a lot too, is, well, if you teach your horse to lay down, aren't they going to lay down all the time, and they're going to lay down with my saddle on, and they're going to lay down when I'm riding? Well, no, it's the same thing as if you teach your horse how to canter under saddle. You taught your horse how to canter. That doesn't mean your horse randomly takes off all the time and takes you off on a canter. Your horse understands that, oh, there's a cue for this, and to only do it with a cue. So if your horse does start to lay down and you didn't ask for it, if you just simply bring their head up, you can usually interrupt that thought or just ask your horse to walk forward. You don't have to be mean about it, and just get your horse to get moving will stop them from thinking about laying down. So I don't know, is there anything else that you want to add to that about kind of basic warnings before you would get somebody to start thinking about it?
I'm pretty sure you covered it all. I mean, as far as warnings go, I mean, the precautions to take before you go for it, I mean, you pretty much covered it as far as what I think about before I go for teaching to lay down to a horse.
Perfect. And I guess one more thing to mention would just be, make sure that you've taught your horse many other things, so that way they're not defaulting to a lay down, or that you can't teach other skills. Like for example, if you don't have your horse leading really nicely, then obviously you don't want to teach lay down, stuff like that. But chances are, if your horse can't give to pressure and kind of follow a field, then you're not really going to have success with lay down. So we're going to start with a little bit of lay down stuff, and I'm going to share with you guys some tips along the way, and Kat can kind of share her experience after we're done working through it a little bit. But I'm not going to show the complete how-to, because like I said, I don't want you to just jump in and be like, I'm going to teach my horse how to lay down today, because I don't want you getting frustrated with your horse or hurting your horse or jumping ahead without doing all those other steps that we kind of talked about. But nonetheless, I hope you learned something and enjoy. First up, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of footage of Alyssia, because she's working on her lay down. So basically what I'm doing is tapping her belly as a lay down cue to ask her to think, to look at the ground, and I want her to shift her focus to the dirt and start to understand that when I tap her belly, I want her to think down into the ground. So this is the big reason why I don't use my hand as a cue, or I don't want to kind of pull her halter down or anything like that to try to suggest down, because I find once you get down to the ground, then your horse is like, well, we can't go any further, and they're too concerned looking at you and your hand to realize that their attention actually needs to shift to the dirt like she's doing there. So here is now taking a look at Kat and her Thoroughbred for the first time. And if you guys hear some noise in the background while I'm doing this voiceover, that is because I am literally in the car on the way north, leaving Florida at this point, which is super sad, and that video will be coming out a little bit later. Don't worry, I'm not driving, Sabrina's driving. But anyways, here is footage of Kat and her horse, and super cool. So she taps the horse's belly, and then he kind of finds a little bit of an answer of looking down, and he was kind of bending his knee almost by accident. But we're gonna see a little bit in this footage of how we can shape that behavior for him to find the correct answer on purpose. So often when you first start tapping your horse's belly, they might do nothing, and they might just kind of move their head around. So there he like even just goes to rub his knee a little bit, and she just rewards that, even though it's nothing to do with the dirt and nothing towards with looking at the ground, but it's a step in the right direction of him putting his head down. Not all horses will put their leg forward like he's doing for whatever reason. He's rubbing his knee with his head, and so whatever, that's fine. The objective is that he just understands to put his head down in some fashion. So once a horse is confident with understanding that when I tap your belly that it means some motion of down, then there will be some progression after that. So see how she's tapping and he's putting his head down, but he's also backing up. So she's rewarding him for putting his head down, but then she's bringing him forward again, because the answer is not actually to back up. The answer is just for head down. So she's trying to already start to make a little bit of a correction to say, hey, you actually need to stay forward during this process. So he's a little distracted there, looking off in the distance at the other horses. So she's just kind of being patient there and continuing with tapping at the belly and saying, like, okay, like we need to put her head down. And you can see she puts a little bit of pressure on the halter there to try to get his attention, because he's really getting distracted there. So she just kind of says like, hey, remember, focus here. And he's like, oh yeah, right, I need to put my head down. And there he kind of stomps at the ground a little bit, but he starts to turn a little bit. So she's just waiting for some type of motion that he's understanding to just put his focus down to the ground and hold it for a little bit longer. And there's no magic time frame of your horse needs to do it this many times and then you're gonna move on to the next step of waiting for them to keep their head down longer or anything like that. You largely have to go off of kind of timing and feel, and also you have to know your horse before you get to this part to understand how many repetitions do they need to do something before they're ready to go on to the next task. Are they likely to get flustered if you start to ask for more? Some horses, they don't even get to understanding to think about the dirt in their first session. They just understand a little bit of, tiny little bit of head down, and that's where you have to leave them. Some horses, I've been to clinics where I've demoed it with a horse and they actually figured out how to lay down within 5 minutes with this approach. So it really depends on the horse, but it also largely depends on the human picking up when the horse is ready for you to ask for more and really understanding when your horse is understanding the task, rather than having to repeat something. And it's kind of a fine balance. If you repeat too many times at one particular level, like let's say you get to the point of tap belly means head down, and you repeat that too many times without progressing, your horse will get to the point where they think that's it, that's all you have to do. So it's a really tricky piece of when you have to move on before you start progressing to the next piece. But the first step is just this little piece of tap means head down. And so you can see Kat's kind of progressing to the next piece where she wants him to keep his head down a little bit longer. So it's no longer just put your head down and get the cookie right away. You got to stay down a little bit longer. You can see she's bringing him forward each time. So it's like, hey, you're supposed to stay in this general area. So this is good here. He puts his head down to the dirt and he actually stepped forward, which is more similar to what horses typically do when they go to lay down. They usually kind of put their nose to the dirt and kind of maybe walk forward in a little bit of a circle. And so she rewarded him for that. So this horse, really, really smart, making a lot of great progress. Some horses would not get to that point during this piece within such a short period of time. It's been less than 10 minutes and he's already figured out this much. And so he started off with just rubbing his leg, and then now you can see he's starting to reach for a different answer. He's like, maybe it's not about rubbing my leg. Let me try it again. Let me try rubbing my leg again. Does that get the answer? He's like, I haven't gotten my cookie yet. What else can I do? Gets a little bit distracted there. And then he's kind of looking at his leg again. Does it have to do with rubbing my leg? He's like, maybe not. What else is the answer? And then there, see how he looks at the dirt right there. He's like, did it have to do with the dirt? And she's like, yes, it has to do with the dirt, and gives him a cookie. So the timing of her is really, really good. So now I just jumped forward a little bit, and I cut out a little bit of the footage so that we don't make this a 20-minute video, just so you could see where she kind of finishes with him a little bit, where he's still backed up a little bit there, but he's starting to really get it, where she's going to tap on his belly here. See how quickly his head comes to the ground. He still thinks about his foot for a little bit, but then pretty quickly he starts to understand that he should go down to the dirt, and he holds it a little bit longer and he's looking at the dirt. You can see him really intently looking at the dirt, and then that's where we want to leave it. Really good job. All right, Kat, so we just finished up introducing the idea to your horse. What do you think about this way of asking a horse to lay down compared to other ways that you've tried in the past?
Right. I like it a lot. It's a lot more letting them figure it out, and it makes their brain think a lot more. It's not forceful by any means, and it's really guiding them to use their brain in their own ways, and I really like that. This is a more natural method and not forcing anything on them, so it's really nice.
How do you think he did today?
He did pretty good. I mean, he picked up putting his head down pretty fast. It's just going to be a matter of starting to build up from that. But he does usually pick things up pretty fast, but I wasn't sure if the lay down would be more tricky for him. Obviously, it's just step one, but he seems to have gotten it pretty good so far. So I'm kind of looking forward to working on that and building it up and seeing where we can go with it.
Cool. And of course, like, so Kat's brought her horse to the farm here where I'm at, and her horse hasn't been here before. You can see he's kind of looking around. He's not doing anything bad, but his attention is not going to be as calm as it is at home. So one of my biggest tips would be, when you go home, is do this in a spot that he's super relaxed and comfortable at home. Maybe if you've seen him lay down in a particular spot before when he's loose in the arena or in his field, go do it there, and then he's more likely to connect the dots as well. But yeah, he's totally smart, super cute. And so we're going to be looking for Kat at the Thoroughbred Makeover 2020. Wishing her luck. She's planning to do ranch and freestyle. So super talented trainer, and we definitely wish her the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out.